Hello and welcome to Give and Take, the virtues in life. And today's topic is leadership. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce Sheila Evans Trainum. Welcome, Sheila.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Lovely. So Sheila, tell us about, in particular, we're going to talk about how I met you. And so let's talk about that role that you played there.
I think I know we met when I was the Associate Commissioner of Education for New York State, a position I held for 16 years.
Oh, I didn't know it was that long.
Yes, which was quite unusual because I worked under both a Republican governor and a Democratic governor. So that's quite unusual in the state because as the parties change, usually the employees change.
Right.
But I had that wonderful opportunity and gave me 16 years, which I hope in those 16 years I made a difference in the lives of children and families so that the system could be more responsive to their educational needs.
Well, I can say, speaking personally, it did make a difference because I know I was actually one of the parents at the time. I remember I was in a low-performing school and they were looking for parents to be a part of this training that you would conduct. And, you know, it was, I'm going to let you continue and say more about it, and then I'll add my pieces in.
Yes, I think part of what we wanted to do at the State Education Department at that time under my leadership was what we call change the paradigm, do a paradigm shift. When I came, all of the burden of being well educated was placed on the child who needed someone to do that for them.
Right.
And so the child failed. The child dropped out. The child was pushed out.
Right.
The child was suspended. The child ended up in jail. And the teachers in the system was rated satisfactory and excellent and no repercussions. There were no repercussions if children failed. It was accepted. And so in changing the paradigm, we said, no longer will children just fail, but if children fail, then the system fails.
Right.
And we must do something about it. So part of what I saw was the calling in my life to get to parents, because I couldn't do it by myself.
Right.
To get to parents and the community to say, we can have better opportunities for our children, but I need your help.
And it was wonderful, you know, like I said, it was a low-performing school, so it provided the opportunity for parents to be able to come and sit on these committees. And in that, Sheila, you really gave so much information to us. You educated us from top to bottom. And I remember going to Buffalo, I think it was, and you you taught us the curriculum. You taught us how to share that with parents, to share it with schools, and you just equipped us with so much that there was no trying to dumb us down and think that we, you know, make us seem like we didn't have a part at the table. You made us sit at the table with the information to really gear us to be, you know, successful. You really did that.
Yes, because I believe, you know, we give lip service to a parent is the child's first teacher.
Absolutely.
But after that, I felt we were not giving enough support for parents. I didn't feel parents had to be able to work out all the mathematical formulas.
Right.
But there should have been a companion curriculum for the parents, the same kind that I had for my daughter, but because I was an educator, I knew what to do.
Right.
So my daughter went to school. I created companion curriculum for her to help her be more successful in school. And I just felt that if we could teach that to parents, that they would rise above what people thought they could and parents, oh, I love my parents.
Yeah, you
They
certainly
did exactly what I thought they would do. They excelled. They helped their children, and I know I run into them, that their children went on to higher education, went on to get great jobs. They're lawyers.
Right.
They're in medical schools. That we help them, the parents, to see the school is failing, but don't ever let that label carry your child through life.
Right.
We can do something about it. We can lift up the school. We can lift up the community. And in doing that, we also lift up families.
Right. And I remember in some of the trainings, one of the training in particular, when you said to us that as parents, we are disciples. And I've kept that, let me tell you, Sheila, I have not forgotten that, and I still use it to this day, that we were disciples.
Yes.
And so we had to go back and then disseminate that information to the parents, to the schools, to the children. And I remember just really being an advocate. You taught us how to be advocates.
Yes.
And I would go to school board meetings and speak. I would go to city council meetings and speak. And I remember this young lady came into me, it was a student, she said, "Thank you very much for being there for us, for advocating for us." She said, "I wish my mum and dad were like you." And I never forget it. And that was because of what you had done, Sheila. You did so much for us in regards to making us be the best that we could be.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for that. But, you know, I had to find willing parents.
You did, and you found someone, and we worked very well together. We were very supportive of each other. We kept in contact, and then I want you to now talk about the schools, low performing schools, the SIR schools, and I know they call them different names now.
Yes. Well, failure or the lack of performance will always exist. There will if you had a list of schools, there will always be schools at the bottom of the list.
Right.
Right. If you have a list. So my goal was not just to get rid of the schools at the bottom at that time, whichever one was labeled, but I wanted to elevate the entire floor.
Right.
Because if I could elevate the entire floor, then I felt the system had a better chance of succeeding. And so crafting the design to be able to target which schools, how we were going to evaluate schools, and then what strategies were we going to use to be able to elevate those schools became a major task. But we were able to find some positive strategies that are still used today to elevate those schools. And unfortunately, there were schools that didn't make it. And so I became the first person in the United States, probably the world, given how we crafted it, the first person in the United States to close down a school for failing to educate minority children, poor children, and children of color. Children of color.
Sure.
The first one in this country. And I'm often asked about that, and I tell people, it was supposed to be the shockwave that said, we will no longer accept failure. Parents will no longer accept failure. Schools will no longer accept failure. We know what to do. And if schools choose not to perform at a higher level, then we also know what to do.
Right.
And we will close them down. I mean, in that process, I got 2 death threats. But I feel that it was worth it.
Right.
At one of the death threats, the state police intervened, and the other, New York City, the police department gave me additional protection, for me and my daughter. And so nothing ever happened, but I was just that passionate about reform and leaving a legacy, because I knew I couldn't stay there forever. I couldn't.
Right.
But I just believe when given an opportunity, I did not want to go to sleep at night regretting that I had not done what I needed to do to save children, because I was in the business of saving lives.
Right.
It was more than just books and chalk and talk.
That's right.
I was focused on saving lives.
And you certainly did do that, and you said your legacy is there. And you know, for those who know you and those who don't know you, they'll get to know you now more. But again, it was very appreciative on the hard work and dedication, and you held us accountable, the parents. And when we used to go to low-performing schools, the information that you gave us, it was like they used to try to push us to just the parents, but it was like then they saw how much we knew, and so then they gave us the opportunity to interview the whole school, and they were so impressed with us because we were there gathering information that they weren't able to get. And so because you gave us what we needed to do to go out there and be with them and not, you know, like be less than, you made us equal, or if not higher than what they were in regards to the knowledge that you gave us.
And I had some great partners to help me with that.
Yes.
New York University stepped up to the plate and helped to write the curriculum.
Right.
Fordham University stepped up to the plate and helped us with some of the initiatives. So we were at a time when there were people in high positions, deans of schools of education that wanted to help us and that in fact helped us to get the job done.
Excellent, very good. So it was a very wonderful partnership, and you should be feeling that you accomplished what you set out to do. So now, is there anything else, Sheila, you want to tell us about that role as the former Associate Commissioner of Education?
No, I think 16 years was a long time to serve in that position. I think I did what I was assigned to do from a higher being.
And that's right.
Because in addition to being the commissioner, I was also a reverend.
Okay.
Still am a reverend, and I viewed it as my calling.
Right.
It was what my assignment was from the Creator.
Lovely.
And so I continue to do the work, whether you know, I'm consulting with school districts across the country. Oddly enough, spent a lot of time sharing the work that I did in the State Education Department with the country of Denmark.
Right.
I was initially asked to go in just to have a conversation with the Minister of Education about some things that were happening in New York City public schools and some research that had come out. So I would be flown over to Denmark and we would have these wonderful conversations.
Great.
And then I started training departments, ministries within the organization.
Lovely.
And particularly on holding oneself accountability, and setting up accountability standards, and then ultimately worked with, closed out a conference of 300 mayors and 700 elected officials in the country at their annual conference. And Cecily, I was the only person of color in the room. But it was quite wonderful. For whatever reason, the Danish people loved my jokes.
And they loved you. I know they loved you. Who could not love you, Sheila?
But I've had a wonderful love relationship with that country. And I'm happy to say that they all have a system to collect the data so they can analyze what is wrong with their schools, with their social services, etc. And it was from my years of traveling back and forth, just having those critical conversations with the leaders of that country to say, you must hold yourself accountable.
You must hold yourself accountable. And what you also encouraged was partnerships with businesses and nonprofit organizations. So you also, you know, and I remember going to some places with schools that would, what do you call those schools now? They're, beacon schools that had medical for the children, dental for the children, whatever is needed in that community was inside the
Yeah.
school. And those beacon schools were just amazing,
Yes.
you know? Mhm.
The concept behind that was we wanted the school to be the hub of the community.
Right.
Generally, I mean, I do that in my faith-based work to say the church must be a better partner
Absolutely.
in the community, as particularly in the Black community. It is the wealthiest institution in the Black community, but yet it's not reaching out beyond its doors. So now in my faith-based work, it is a matter of helping churches to see that they have to play a vital role. There's no reason the doors of the church should only be open on Sundays.
Right.
That there are ministries that they could do with young people, homework help, after school programs, et cetera. So focusing in on that became a critical issue. But in when I was the associate commissioner, what we really wanted to do was make the school the central hub
Right.
of activities. And so if that meant bringing in dental programs and bringing in health programs, one of the schools, and I always see this principal, and he said, "Remember your favorite principal?" I said, "Yes, you are," because it was a low-performing school. I went in and I asked him, "Well, why are so many children absent?" He didn't know. We assigned a aide to help him figure that out, to go to the
Right.
homes in the morning, see why the children weren't coming to school, and come to find out that he had a large population of his children had asthma. They were just sick. They didn't, and when they came to school, they didn't feel like working. And so we put in an open airways program
Right.
where they had all of the instruments they needed in the school, and the nurse could do what the nurse needed to do without sending the child, waiting for the
Right.
child to become so sick that they had to go to the emergency room. And then we tracked the emergency room rates. Within 1 year of implementing that program, his scores had zoomed high enough to come
Amazing.
off the list.
Amazing.
So we were trying to look at all different kinds of variables that impacted the educational outcome of children.
Right.
And that's why we started putting in, the nurses and the dentists, and then expand some of those areas, expanded it to the child's family
Right.
as well. You have to be healthy
Right.
to learn. You need to be healthy. You need to have food in your stomach. You can't
Right.
learn if you're hungry. I don't care who you are. If your stomach is growling, your
How are you gonna learn?
attention is
Attention
distracted.
is going to the stomach, not to what you're
Right,
being
and if
taught.
you're laboring breathing,
Right. Exactly.
how successful are you going to be that day? So it was a holistic approach
Yes.
to helping the whole child.
And then there was the extension, because through the special SES schools, right? SES, it was special, I can't remember, it was like extended day.
Yes.
And so, again, for those parents that have to work late, and then
Yes.
it gave the children opportunity to do homework, whatever it is that was needed by extending the school day. That was also a very wonderful program that
Yes.
was implemented during that time.
We had gotten a lot of money in the budget to be able to do that, to work with families. Not everyone can afford to have a babysitter at home.
Right.
And so we wanted to make sure that the child could stay in school until 6 o'clock,
Have
get a little
meal.
snack.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And do some play. We didn't want it all to be academics because for children, play is also educational.
It is.
And you can't keep a child at a desk for 10 hours
No.
a day. You can't do that. So we made sure that the child had a snack. We made sure that they had time to play, as children should.
Right.
But we also made sure that in those programs that there was someone there to tutor them with their homework, so that when they got home, if mom and dad were not there or were coming in late,
Right.
their homework was done.
Right, and that was also through partnerships with, nonprofit organizations, and so that helped to support. And then a lot of the time they would hire some of the staff from the actual school.
Yes.
So there's already that relationship, and so it just extended it beyond the day, which was very nice also.
Yes.
Now, Sheila, just tell us a little bit about your pastoral work, what you do in regards to that.
Well, I've been an ordained minister for almost 30 years.
Okay.
Almost
all
30
right.
years. And so I've always done both. I sometimes tell people, you know, I moonlight doing that other stuff. The pastorate is my real calling.
That's how I feel about the show. This is my real calling.
You know, I'm afraid that the big guy up there would not approve if I said it any other way. So, but yes, it is. It has been a wonderful journey.
Lovely.
It's a wonderful journey, still is, and I just finished spending 14 years in philanthropy, where I became the chair of the largest board serving children in America, and it's the 11th largest board in the country.
Wow.
And so we had close to $3 billion on Wall Street that we were able to spend, and one of the things the board wanted me to do was to develop a faith-based initiative. So I'm very proud of that work that continues to go on, including in Dr. Martin Luther King's church, Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia, where we infuse funds to look at the entire community surrounding the church,
Right.
and to lift the credit scores in that area, because if you can lift the credit scores, you can lift the income.
Right.
Because you don't need predatory lending, you know, you don't need to pay all this interest,
Right.
you know, on credit cards, because you have more cash flow to be able to buy the goods and services that you need. So
Right.
raising the credit score became important to us, bringing in, so we brought in Catholic Charities, we brought in work programs,
Nice.
and really helped the community around Ebenezer Baptist Church. We helped to elevate it, and to also include the educational piece in that.
Lovely.
And saving vulnerable children and vulnerable families was a part of my work in foster care. And so I just ran into the pastor of that church at the Congressional Black Caucus, and he told me that even though I'm not on the board anymore, that the work is going forth.
Right.
And he was so appreciative of the support that was given. So if you're ever in Atlanta and go to Ebenezer, you got to go into the Daddy King
And
Center.
I was just there, you know. I was
Really?
There. Yes, I was there earlier this month. I mean, this year I was up there. And I went to the Ebenezer Church. I went up there, yes.
So there's a brand new building right next door to the
think
new
I saw
church.
that. I think I saw
And
that.
it's called the Martin Luther King Senior Building.
okay.
And that's the building we help to organize services for the community.
Oh,
in.
okay,
So
great.
yeah, the pastor, I love preaching, I love teaching, and I'm presently completing a doctorate in ministry at Duke University,
Oh.
and I'm very excited about that. My daughter having graduated from there.
I mean, we used to share stories about your daughter,
Yes.
how well she was doing and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah,
So
lovely.
she graduated from Duke Law School and Duke Divinity School at the same time, and is now working in Washington, and had been Bob Mueller's chief of staff for cybersecurity, and then started to write some of his speeches before he went off to become special investigator.
Right.
So
Nice.
yes, she's doing well, thank God,
Good,
and
yes,
and
yes.
I'm doing well, thank
Yes,
God.
and you
So-
look well. And you know, and you did encourage us to get our education, and I did. I got my degree in early childhood development.
Wonderful.
And I just, you know, it was my bachelor degree in early child, and because I thought I wanted to go into special ed, but then I felt, so I'm glad I did it gradually, and then I said, no, I want to, psychology, I like psychology. And so I just recently got my master's in psychology industrial organization. So working with, you know, school teachers, I've done some of that. Did
Okay,
some
okay.
training with some teachers and stuff. And working with organizations, with capacity building, all that kind of thing. So you encouraged us, Sheila, to do the best that we could.
Yeah.
And to be the best that we could. So I'm just telling you, it worked. It didn't go in vain. It worked. And I just want to, you know, I just want to personally thank you. I hope I don't knock off my mic. I want to personally thank you and all of us, from all of us, because I know I speak for all of us, And I want to thank you for all the
thank
wonderful
you.
things that you've done, Sheila. I
Thank
really,
you.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate what you have done for me in regards to helping me see what's the best thing that I need to do for myself and for others.
Yes.
So self first,
Yes.
and then others. And I carried it, and I do talk about you, and I talk about when you said that we should be disciples, and it stuck with me. It's like, it can't stay with me, and I have to get very passionate about it. I said, this information's been given to me so I can share with others.
Yes,
It's not
yes.
just for me. I know I'm a mother, you know, and I had my child in the school, but I know I had to share that with everybody else, and I did the best that I could. I even got one of the parents from the school, and she came and did the training also.
Yes.
And her daughter's doing very well, and so you did amazing things, Sheila, and I want to thank you. And,
I appreciate this so much.
oh, that's okay. That's okay. We're getting close to the end of the show, but is there anything else that you'd like to share with the viewers?
Well, I just want to say that on April 20th, October 20th, we will do a celebration of at the John Henry Clark House in Harlem, 286 Convent Avenue.
Okay.
And it is a tribute to jazz, and it's a part of the culture of people in the diaspora. So we just invite everybody to come
Lovely,
and
lovely.
celebrate with us.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Sheila. I really appreciate that. And
I'm sorry, it's a tribute to Randy Weston. I should have
tribute
said
to
that, who
Randy
passed
Weston.
away. One of
Yeah,
our
yeah,
great
yeah.
jazz musicians.
right. So as we're winding down, again, I want to thank you for coming down. That you had quite a commute over here, and I appreciate that, because that's who you are. You want to come out and you want to share the information that you have. You don't keep it for yourself. And so whatever comes in your way, death threats, whatever it is, you don't let that become an obstacle for you. You go leaps and bounds, and let it be and that's why I wanted to call the show the topic leadership, because that's true leadership. It's not just self, it's self and others. And
Yes.
so again, very much appreciated, Sheila. I really, when you said, yes, I'm coming on, she said, yes. You don't know how excited I was. She said, yes, she's coming. So anyway, we're going to finish up now.
Okay.
And so thank you, Sheila, again.
Thank you for having me.
And so to the wonderful viewers, your level of consciousness is the gateway to the future. Thank you.